Hello and welcome to English Through Experience. I'm ET Tutor and this is another revision video for Edexcel GCSE English language students, and we're looking at section A, question 4. So the dreaded question 4. Now this one obviously is longer, it's worth 15 marks, so it's really important that you know in advance how you plan to approach it. Now there's lots of different ways you can do this. Because it's a longer question, there's more flexibility. And what I'm doing in this video is just giving you a few ideas of how to approach it. It's mainly for students who don't already have a plan in mind. If you're used to doing what you've learned at school, then stick with it, but obviously just use what I'm saying to enhance your knowledge. Right, so one of the questions I get asked a lot is which assessment objective does the question relate to? So we'll start with that. So in question 4, as an examiner, what we're looking for is to see that you can evaluate text critically and support this with appropriate textual references. So that was the AO verbatim, so I was quoting it out for you there. Now I'm going to break it down. So evaluate text critically. So basically what you're doing is giving a bit of a commentary for the text. Try to think of it in that way, it seems a little bit less scary. You're giving a commentary, and ideally you want this to be in the third person rather than the first person. So if you're not sure about that, easy way of thinking is don't use the word I. It's not I think the writer does this effectively. You need to be more detached in your criticism. So you would say the writer does this effectively. That also shows the confidence that you need to have. You know that you've got the answer. You know that your critical analysis is strong. So you lay it out like it's a fact. So that's the first part. You're giving this critical, detached commentary, evaluation of what's going on in the text in relation to the question focus. And then, nice and easy, just got to make sure that whatever you're arguing is backed up by evidence. So the evidence can take the form of longer quotations, it can take the form of zooming in on particular words, or it can just be you paraphrasing what's happening in the text, and that's something that you will need to do. So there's the AO done with. Now let's zoom in on that question and break it down. So it'll always say something like, in this extract there is an attempt to create humour. In this extract there is an attempt to create an atmosphere of mystery. In this extract there is an attempt to create tension. So there'll be some kind of statement that is going to be true in terms of the text. Then we've got evaluate how successfully this is achieved. So this time, how successfully does the writer create humour? And within that, you'll be considering how they do it and supporting your views with references to the text. So make sure you know what that question focus is, and make sure that you are actually addressing the question. You're supposed to be saying how well the author achieves their particular goals, and it's for you to work out what the goals are. One of the things that students use when addressing this one is the acronym SITE. So setting, where is the extract set? How does that relate to the question focus? So how does that relate to humour this time? And then we can look at the ideas. So what do you think the writer's goals were? What did they want you to think and feel? How did they want you to laugh in this case? What did they want to include that would tickle your funny bone? And then we think about the theme. So how does what they're attempting to create, say tension or humour, relate to the particular theme? So humour, it might be that the writer wants us to consider the theme of the family, for example. And then finally, the events. So what is it within the text that achieves this goal? Which little events, which parts are significant? So you can use cite to make sure you're addressing the different aspects of the question. And then in terms of structuring your response, this is where there seems to be the most diversity in terms of the approach that students take. What I would suggest is that because the question wants you to consider the text as a whole, that you try to work chronologically. So when you're reading it through, looking for the attempts to create humour, you'll end up hopefully with highlighted sections or sections that are underlined with little notes alongside them. And then I'd suggest that you try and write these up in the order they appear, because they're going to relate together. And that's going to mean that you're able to develop your critical response, your argument about the text, by building on the points that you're making in order. And it also means that you hopefully manage to comment on the beginning, what's happening in the middle of the text, and how it ends, because these things will probably be significant in terms of what the question's asking you to look at. So just to finish off, I'm going to read you a little bit from the mark scheme so you understand why I'm saying what I'm saying here. So we have this phrase on the mark schemes called indicative content, and at this part for question 4 we're given a bit of an overview, and then we're given a list of bullet points that students are more than likely to comment on, all in slightly different ways, but these are the things we'd expect to see within the response. So the overarching part for indicative content is reward responses that evaluate how successfully the purpose of, and then it will say what's within the actual question. So how successfully the writer attempts to create humour. And then there's another little note, and this is to do with language analysis and techniques. And again, this is something that people do seem to be a little bit unsure about. There's mixed messages. People think, oh, this isn't a language analysis question, so I shouldn't be doing that. But what I would say is you will be doing that, because you're interpreting how the words on this page achieve something. So you are looking at the language. So it's not a case that you've got to pick up on all different devices. But if in order to answer how the writer's creating humour, you need to talk about the use of a metaphor, that's perfectly fine. That's something that we are able to give you credit for. So don't worry about that. Okay, final thing, there's just a few little ideas of things that come up every now and again based upon a mark scheme. So it could be that you comment on the mental state of the narrator or a character. It could be that you consider how the reader responds to the decisions and actions a character makes. You're thinking about possibly what the character or what the narrators are thinking and feeling at different points, and how this could change throughout the extract. You're thinking about the description of actions and events, and you're thinking about possibly how the events and themes are introduced, where they fall within the structure of the piece as a whole. Alright then, I hope that's helped a little. It is hard to discuss these questions without having examples to use, and that's why I've created an example for you the best I could. So in the next video, what I will do is try to give you some ideas about how you could approach the exam if it was this extract. If you want to, it might be a good idea to actually have a go at this question first, and then you'll be able to compare what I say with your own response, and that will give you a clearer indication of the level you're working at the moment. So yeah, you can check the everything down in the description box. You can also visit my website to download a copy of this exam paper if you think that that will help. Some people like to actually have the paper version so they can write on it and make it more like the real thing, but that's completely up to you. Thanks again for watching, and thanks to everybody who's got in touch, especially those few students who have switched over to Edexcel from AQA. It seems like you're really keen to succeed, so yes, wishing you all the best of luck, and all the best of luck to everybody.